Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
11:03 on Edmonton Sports Talk. Thank you very much for being here. It is Nielson. Hustle will be joining shortly. And it is a Friday edition of The Lock Shop. The Jets lose last night. That's rare. The Oilers lose last night. Not as rare as of late. But we'll get into the whole NHL slate last night. Lots to get to, actually, on the Lock Shop today. We'll get to NHL action tonight. Hustle will give us his picks for the Brier. Apparently, there's a wrestling event called the Elimination Chamber that we will get to as well. If you are watching over on YouTube today, thank you very much for being here. Hammer the thumbs up for us. That would be terrific. And you can hit us up in the nasty chat over there as well. Big Uke says, Draisaitl anytime goal has been the only Oilers game bet I've been making. When it's hot, it's hot. Good on you for having the composure to not get carried away and to just keep betting that, because that definitely hits. 7 in a row now for Leon Draisaitl. Unfortunately, he might have more goals over that 7-game stretch than the rest of the forward group combined. Actually, we should look that up. I wonder if he does. I wonder if Leon's 7 goals are more than goals scored by all the other forwards on the team. We'll see about that. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999, and we'll get to some of those text messages. I'm pretty excited for today. Today's one of those days where I sort of get to sit back and let Huss cook on the Brier and on the Elimination Chamber, I believe is what it's called. So I'm very excited to see him let us know exactly what's going to happen. He's usually pretty good at finding some winners. And we will take a look at the NHL slate tonight. What do we got? Just 3 games. Again, some interesting games, though. Kings and Stars, that's a big one. Colorado's at home to Minnesota. And then the Rangers at home against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs minus 125 favorites on the road against the Rangers. But there is us from WST. He joins us now on the Lock Shop. Of course, if you're not yet signed up for an account at Coolbet, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you will get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. Us people are excited for Elimination Chamber picks and Brier picks. How was the whiskey event last night? Obviously, the Jets didn't win, but how was the event?
It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, for those whiskey tastings are really cool. We had the diplomat from Maker's Mark come in and taught us all about bourbons. We got to try a bunch, including a couple of exclusive limited casks. I was actually the first person to crack open and try this brand in Manitoba. It was a very fun night. The Whiskey Festival is this weekend, so it's a huge event down at the convention center. Great spirits, food, and all that. So we kicked it off. Yeah, it was well. We did it at Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. It was great. And then, unfortunately, like when we did this event last year, the Jets somehow lost to the Predators.
Did the event last year and they also lost to the Preds?
Yeah.
Just what are the odds of that?
Basically, sometimes you find, like, I don't know the Oilers' schedule as well as the Jets, but do you find sometimes that you're playing the same team either at home or on the road at the same time of the season? That's sort of the case with this. I mean, it just kind of worked out. I was at the game. I was at one of the Nashville games last year. I guess that was no more in April. There was a lot of Winnipeggers at the game last night. A lot of people decided to make the trip out to see what was going on in Music City for it. Jets played well. UC Saros was a monster last night. Hell, Eric Comrie was great for the Jets last night too. Kyle Connor alone had like 1.37 expected goals. He just it was a little snake bit last night, and hey, it was going to happen sooner or later. We're going to be biting our fingernails tonight with this Dallas-LA game. They're 11 points back of the Jets in the Central Division. So I'm going to have to talk some people down off the ledge today.
You're talking people down off the ledge. You're talking people down off the ledge.
I was firmly tongue-in-cheek. I'm pretty sure people can handle one loss on the second end of a long back-to-back with your back. Although the backup goalie was great last night. That certainly had nothing to do with goaltending. But I did notice that It was, I guess, a closer game, probably a bit better of an effort by the Oilers, but still not getting the results. And I imagine the text line was popping today.
Yeah. It was an interesting morning on the Nielsen show. It was a better effort, but still, it wasn't it wasn't like they played good enough and they should have won the hockey game. They played good enough to maybe win a hockey game, but they didn't play well enough to deserve to win the hockey game last night. It was 2-2 in the third. A couple of breakdowns lead to Nate Schmidt having a pretty good look. Beat Skinner on one that Skinner probably wants back, and then the fourth one was a bit of a weird one as well. Hyman gets a goal with just over 3 minutes left with the net already empty, and then they take a penalty, and that's pretty much the end of the hockey game. So, a little troubling. Now they get Carolina to wrap up this road trip. After the first game, Reed Wilkins did say he thinks they're going 0-5 on this trip, and his prediction has almost come true. Like I don't know what to expect against Carolina. What I'm scared of for this city is they lose against Carolina, and then they come home next week and they get Anaheim. And if they lose at home to Anaheim next week, they will be booed off the ice. People will be calling for Knobloch to be fired. And it's going to, and I'm sure one player will get into it with a member of the media post game. That's what's going to happen if they don't win in Carolina and then somehow lose to Anaheim at home. And Anaheim's been playing relatively well as of late. So, and can you imagine this? John Gibson, the guy that everybody wants the Oilers to trade for, comes into town, stands on his head next Tuesday with the Ducks. I mean, that'll be a perfect storm of madness on Wednesday morning next week, buddy.
I like how you've got the script all laid out. Reed's predictions must be real popular in Edmonton right now.
Yeah. I mean, there's one guy who's just on tilt. He's just like, I can't believe that you predicted like that. I can't believe you would say this and whatever. I mean, Reed's had a pretty good. He's done pre and post for the team for like over a decade. He's got a pretty good read on this group, and finally showed a little bit of frustration last night. Draisaitl slammed a gate on his way off the ice. He scored again, 7 straight games, but nobody else is doing anything, and it's extremely frustrating right now here, buddy.
Yeah, Dries, how close is he to 50 now?
44. So he's 6 away. He's going to smash through 50. Take a legit run at 60, actually, if he keeps playing the way he's playing.
You know, I was just looking. Do you remember just right before the first day of the season, we did the little lock shop experiment where I randomly took 5 props that were on the board and picked unders on all of them? Draisaitl is going to be the one guy that screws the perfect run.
The other other 4 are looking good?
The other 4 are all pretty much in. Let me just pick these up here. So Draisaitl goals under 50.5. He's getting 50. That's going to be a loss. But Austin Matthews goals under 58.5.
Oh, easy.
That's a lock.
Easy dub.
Pasternak under 104.5 points. Highly unlikely he gets even close to triple digits. Matty Beniers under 54.5 points. That one is all but sure. I think he's in the 30s right now. And Patrick Kane points under 63.5. So I'm declaring this right now. I will be expanding the blind unders next year when we get to our futures. But the future talking right now is these cup odds, playoffs, and everything else happening around the league. Also the trade deadline. By the way, I was thinking more and more about your call yesterday about Seth Jones.
Yeah.
I've just bet that at plus 300.
The 3-1 to just stay where he is.
I think that's a great number. I mean, I was listening to Friedman this morning on 32 Thoughts, and he correctly stated this is going to be a really, really tough deal for them to make happen. I don't know whether Seth was trying to squeeze him a little bit with his comments earlier, but I mean, as much as they might want to trade him and Jones might want to get out of there, in going into the deadline with the contract that he has, the term that's left on it, that's not an easy deal to make. And, you wonder what comes back to Chicago in that. I mean, like, how much are people willing to take or to give up, considering they're going to be getting a guy that is going to be on the books for a big number for another 5 years.
To me, the only reason this deal is even remotely possible in any way is because of the cap coming up. Right? Like if the cap was only going to go up a couple $1 million and then a couple million more over the next few years, I don't think anybody's going anywhere near that contract. But you never know now. I mean, I still think it's a tough deal to get done, which is why I love that 3-1. You should probably hop on it right now, people, before it gets taken down. But I don't see a world where that's not a around the draft deal if it does eventually get done.
You know, those other two options that were up in the book for the trade deadline, we didn't really talk about too much. It was interesting that Nicholas Robertson is the first guy. I mean, there's always some Leafs content. He is at minus 130 for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'll be honest, I haven't really been following Nick Robertson's situation as much. Maybe we should get Jake in to fill us in on all of that. But the Dylan Cousins one is really interesting. Cousins is a guy that I think would have a lot of interest around the league. You know, he does have a longer term contract. It's above $7 million. He certainly hasn't been coming through, but in that case, but I mean, a top six, potentially a top six center, young, there'd be a lot of interest around the league. They say Buffalo minus 270. So I think that tells you that if that happens, maybe again, that is potentially, an off-season deal if they do make a significant move. But it's Leafs, Calgary, Canucks, all 6-1, Habs and Red Wings 7-1, and any other team 10-1. What's interesting about that is of those teams, I mean, obviously the Leafs are in the playoffs. Habs probably are not. And then Calgary, Vancouver, Detroit, all teams just on the cusp. And to get a player like Dylan Cousins, you're giving up some significant assets from your team. So I just kind of found it interesting, those other options that were there for it. And then where are you with on Rantanen? So this number, I think, I'm trying to remember what it was yesterday.
I thought it was over. I thought it was like minus 500, minus 550 yesterday. I'm pretty sure that's where it was.
Carolina?
Yeah.
I'll have to check on that. Anyways, right now it's minus 417.
Yeah, Jake, I wonder if Jake, if you're watching, can you let us know which way? I know that number wasn't minus 417 yesterday. Even the Seth Jones number, it went from 3-1 to plus 250 to stay in Chicago. Did you get on it at 3 or did you get on it at 250?
No, I haven't. I've just been sort of looking at it and trying to figure out what I think about it. Like, what are you buying or selling this Mikko Rantanen, number one guy in the trade bait board, and could be gone again?
I think I'm selling it. I think if you're Carolina, if you decided to go down this Rantanen road and you gave up Nate just to do it, I think you got to use him to take a run at a cup and then give yourself, a couple more months to try to get a deal done. Give yourself a couple more months to see if it starts to click with him. I just don't know if you can use like a month and a half sample size to determine, or even if he can use a month and a half sample size to determine if that's where he wants to be. I'd be fascinated by it, and I understand the conversation heading up to the deadline just because it's such a juicy storyline. But I just don't think we see that type of thing in the National Hockey League. So I think he'll be a Carolina Hurricane, and at minus 417, I just don't see any type of value there. So I'm probably stepping back from that one.
I wonder how much things cooled off with the way that he played last night.
Yeah, good game last night, right? By the way, Rantanen Jake says started at minus 625 to stay with the Canes. So that's where it started. So yesterday it might have been around the minus 550 I was talking about, and now it's at minus 417.
So now it's seemingly more likely that he will be traded than it was before. I'm just pulling up that Canes game. Yeah, Rantanen with a goal and an assist last night in their win over the Canes. Just quickly on that, the weird night last night in the National Hockey League. We were off on the partner parlay. Yeah. There was no close call last night. How about the Columbus Blue Jackets? What a huge win over Detroit. I mean, this Blue Jackets team, I don't know. We don't see a lot of them. I mean, you really sort of have to seek out or get on center ice to see them. But man, that would be the story of the year if they were able to make the playoffs. Dean Evason's, I think he should absolutely get coach of the year consideration. I mean, I think Carberry's going to probably run away with that. But when you think about what happened with Johnny Gaudreau, what everyone's thoughts of where they were as an organization and a team, and the fact that they are right there knocking on the door.
They're in right now, right? Detroit and Columbus tied at 66 points. The Rangers are 4 points back of those two teams. Right?
Yeah,
so
then
there's still a lot of hockey left. Don't get me wrong. And Boston as well. Boston's 4 points back. Montreal. But there's 6 teams in the East that have, I'm just looking at it, like Florida, Toronto, Tampa's third in that division. They have a goal differential of plus 53. The lowest goal differential in that top 6 is plus 20. And then the Red Wings currently hold down the top wildcard spot at minus 13 for goal differential on the year. So like there's a top 6 there. And then there's this interesting race if the Rangers, Sens, or Bruins, Habs can kind of, maybe get hot for a little bit. Ottawa's lost 5 in a row, so that's kind of dropped them back from where they were. But the Blue Jackets haven't won 3 in a row, 6-3-1 in their last 10. The Red Wings are 7-2-1 in their last 10. And it's really going to come down to which one of these teams can find a winning streak probably in the final 10 games of the year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Detroit and Columbus have that nice spot right now where they've got 4 points. Now, both New York and Ottawa have a game in hand. The Bruins have played 1 extra game. So they're 4 points back and having played an extra game. That is significant. Montreal, I'm not even paying attention to. Philly. Boston, if they can, put even 3 wins in a row together, they'll get back in that group of 5.
Yeah.
But to me, we're basically looking at Detroit and Columbus and then the Chasers, New York, Ottawa, Boston. You mentioned the Sens. I mean, they had that nice run heading into the break, and then they hit a roadblock right after that 5-game winning streak, losing back-to-back to Tampa and then to Florida. And then they've come out of the break with a whole bunch of their top guys hurt. So, but good news for Ottawa is they've got San Jose, I believe, tomorrow night. Yep, Saturday night. Tough game at Washington, but then they play Chicago. So they've got 2 of the worst teams in the league in their next 2 games. I mean, maybe you see if you can do something against Washington. They've been a little streaky. But then these games the following week for Ottawa: New York, Detroit, Philadelphia, Boston,
Huge
Toronto,
games.
Montreal. That is where we're getting it. So I don't know. These playoff races are so fun to watch. Of course, in the West right now, it kind of feels like it's Vancouver, Calgary. And every time Vancouver looks like they've got a good opportunity, they take a step back, like last night losing to the Ducks after getting that big 2 points against the Kings the night before. So you got Vancouver at 65 and the Flames 1 point back with a game in hand. And don't forget about the Ducks. I guess with that win, the Ducks are at 59. I mean, I highly doubt that they'll be in the mix. Although, Utah's at 63 and St. Louis is at 62 right now, both with 60 games played. So that's not totally in striking distance. But to your point, I mean, if one of those teams go on a 3-gamer or something like that, all of a sudden there could be company with Vancouver and Calgary in that race for the final spot in the West.
A couple of messages from the chat. And, of course, you can text us 780-218-9999 if you're listening to The Lock Shop on TuneIn or iHeart or at EdmontonSportsTalk.com. That's probably the best way to get in touch with us at 780-218-9999. Mike, the Michigan fan, says the Detroit Red Wings have $13.5 million in deadline space. Yzerman, get on that phone. And I also wanted to shout out Mike, the Michigan fan, because he dropped off some bread today here at the office that was made with 6 o'clock or lager, and it's absolutely delicious. And then he also dropped off like bacon wrapped around like cream cheese And Trev's here. Trev, turn on your mic here for a second. You've had the bread. You've had the bacon poppers or whatever they were.
I have.
Absolutely delicious.
I've probably had more than anyone.
Yeah, I've had about 6 or 7 of those things.
But every time everyone looks away, I'll go and grab one of them.
You're a sneaky bacon boy. That's who you are.
Man. I probably had at least 10.
Oh, my. Wow.
And Zach's away right now. So
you're
I
a
have
pig.
To, yes.
Yeah. Well, Zach, you're right.
For Zach.
Take Zach's share. Yeah.
Myself and Maddie.
Yeah.
So,
he says they're called pig shots. Anyway, absolutely delicious, Mike. Thanks for dropping those off today.
You tried one?
Oh, I tried one. Yeah.
Nicely done.
I was a little worried because of the cream cheese, not really one of my things, but my God, were they delicious. So I had a few more as well. It was really nice.
The more you never know. You never know, Dusty.
You're right.
Well, you got to take that stride into the unknown and try something like that. Nice work with the baking. Bread made with 6 o'clock or lager.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It's pretty cool. I hadn't really seen that before. All right, we got 3 games tonight, Huss. And then we'll get into some of the other stuff that's on the weekend menu as well. I'm bringing up the starting goalies right now, and we'll dive into an interesting with a couple of teams I think on back-to-backs, at least Minnesota. Here are your starting goaltenders tonight in the National Hockey League, what we've got so far. Leafs Rangers should be a good one. Huge game for the Rangers. Well, huge game for both teams, but the Rangers trying to get back into that race. Shesterkin is confirmed to start for the Rangers. It'll be Stolars for the Maple Leafs. What about this game tonight? Oh, Kings and Stars. Ottinger will start for the Dallas Stars. Kemper unconfirmed at this point for the Kings. And then Minnesota and Colorado, the later game tonight. Mackenzie Blackwood and Gustafsson unconfirmed at this point, but listed as the potential starters for this game tonight. So it's a light night, Huss, but what are you looking at tonight on the ice?
Well, unfortunately for the Jets, I don't want to get into a situation where we're nervously looking at what the Dallas Stars are doing. Jets and Dallas do have 2 more head-to-head games.
Those are big. And
I realize it's insane to be talking about this with an 11-point lead, but Dallas does have 2 games in hand. So that's the closest team to Winnipeg. Listen, they've been playing really well lately. Like, can you believe they went 8-1-1 in their last 10 and lost 3 points to the Jets?
That's disheartening, for a team that's playing that well. You're just like, damn it. Now they're probably putting some space between themselves and some teams behind them. But when you're trying to track down a team and you can't do anything when you go like that good a stretch, that sucks.
Now, they, of course, lost against Columbus in their last game, so I think they'll be back at home. I think they'll be locked and loaded for this one. Should be a good game, but I do like Dallas in that game. And then the late game, you got Nichushkin back for Colorado. I think the Avs are feeling listen, they've lost Rantanen, but Nick Cash has actually been pretty good.
12 points in 11 games.
Yeah, like he's definitely been productive. Very different presence than Rantanen, but it's working. And they had a big win against the Devils in their last game out, 5-1. So the Wild are just in such a brutal situation, and it's sort of like the checks are coming due. Like how they are where they are right now in the standings with, their roster, the cap penalties, and the injuries that they've had all year. But it sort of feels like it's coming to roost right now. They got absolutely pumped last night by Utah. They got to travel from Utah to Denver tonight. They're playing on the back-to-back. Colorado isn't. That's part of the reason why the line for this game
is
minus 323. Minnesota's been really good this year and has been the best road team in the league. That being said, I don't see it happening tonight. Even in regulation, it's Colorado minus 200. So I think if anything, it's
got to be a puck line play, right?
I think it's the puck line play for Colorado. And listen, could Minnesota hang in? Absolutely. They've done it before. I would think. Actually, did you say Gustafsson's going for Minnesota?
It's unconfirmed at this point, buddy. Who played last night? Who was in last night for them?
I believe it was Fleury because I think he was.
Yeah, it was Fleury last night. So.
Yeah, so it'll be Gustafsson tonight for that big game against them. That being said, I think they're just going to be in a real tough, very, very tough spot right now. So I don't mind the puck line there. And then this is the tough one. Toronto and the Rangers. And the Rangers, since the break, have been so Jekyll and Hyde. They got absolutely humiliated by Buffalo in that first game back. They were down 5-0 by the end of the first period. But to their credit, they came back last Friday, or was it last Friday? Last Sunday, I think, and beat the Penguins and then crushed the Islanders 5-1. The Leafs right now listen, they're comfortably in a playoff spot. But they've won 3 in a row. I mean, they had that big win over the Bruins last week. The last game out, Mitch Marner with the winner. They beat the Blackhawks before it. To me, this is a game the Rangers need a lot more than the Leafs, though. You know what I mean? Like the Rangers right now, we just laid it out with that Columbus win. They're back a game and they're 4 points away. Like, you do not want to give these other teams the opportunity to get 6-7 points up on you. It is at MSG. I think I'd probably lean with the home dog Rangers in this one at plus 103, but this is a tough game. Part of the reason why it's a relatively close odds. I mean, I don't think there's an obvious play in this one.
Yeah, that's a tough game. I mean, if we're trying to find something to put into a parlay, I mean, Rangers plus 103 might be what I would go with. Sorry, Jake, if you're watching over there. Desker says if Stolarz is in net for the Leafs, bet the Leafs. He's been elite this year. I was looking at this Kings-Dallas game, and I guess the total at 5.5 kind of intrigued me a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on a side in the Kings-Dallas game?
Oh, I like Dallas.
Yeah,
I like Dallas in that game. That's probably my favorite play of the day. I mean, Dallas to me is. Listen, I look at the landscape of the West right now, and I think Vegas obviously is a team that come playoffs you're going to have to deal with. I mean, the Oilers in theory are that team. They look nothing like it right now, but they've got some time to get it together. But when you look at the Central right now, I mean, to me, obviously the Jets have been the number one team all year. They're going to probably get a wild card team. But you know that if you get through that round, you're going to see the Dallas Stars in the next round. I mean, they are, and they've come out the last 2 years out of this division as well. So, and we'll see what they look like in a week. But in the short term, I do like Dallas in this situation. And when you look at LA, I mean, LA is playing relatively well. I mean, they're not doing anything special. I mean, they lost their last game. They're 5-3-2. And again, this goes on either side of the break. But they're under 500 on the road. And the Dallas Stars are 27-1 at home. I just think this is a spot. Like, I'm a little surprised that we're getting the number that we are on Dallas, and it's not more like about minus 150, because I do think they're maybe a slight tier above the LA Kings. So, Stars money line, Avs puck line. And, I mean, to me, it's a kind of a coin flip, but, with Shesterkin coming off these 2 wins, the situation the Rangers are in, I don't mind the value as a home dog if we want to throw them on.
Yeah, the value on the home dog is interesting. I'll also just throw this your way from that game. The total in that game is 5.5. The Leafs have scored 6, 5, and 5 in their last 3. The Rangers have scored 5 in each of their last 2 games. And the game before that gave up 8. And then they've been over in 4 straight games as well. The number is better on the Rangers at plus 103. If we were to actually the line in that game's 6. I moved it down to 5.5. It gets it to 144. With that on the card, it would be plus 429. With the Rangers as a plus 103 dog, plus 533. Colorado puck line, Dallas money line, and the Rangers tonight. I mean, I like that plus 533. I think that's pretty good.
The only thing that worries me about that over 5.5 is that you're probably going to be seeing Shesterkin again in a big game. And I just got he saved 36 of 37 2 nights ago against the Islanders.
Yeah, they were outshot 37-18 in that game.
Yeah. So, I mean, he basically won that game for them. So I do think that Lavi probably gets more out of the team. Like, hey, your goaltender bailed you out. But if he's hot like that, I probably am scared of any over when it comes to the Rangers right now. When he's dialed in the way that he is.
All right, so we'll go Rangers. We'll go Rangers at plus 103 tonight at home against the Leafs. So New York plus 103, Dallas minus 133, and the Colorado Avalanche on the puck line at home against Minnesota tonight. That'll get you to plus 533 pre-boost, and you'll be able to find this in the combo cards over at Coolbet. The combo cards you'll find right up at the top. Some other combo cards that are already sitting there waiting for you. We've got the Friday night super boost. A Marner point and a McKinnon point goes from minus 159 to minus 115. Points from the point tonight: Morgan Riley, Thomas Harley, Cale Makar, all to just have a point, plus 601. Austin Matthews, Jason Robertson, Matthew Boldy, all to score. It's the Stars and Snipes combo card, plus 1645. You've got the D-Gen Den parlay. They're beating us into the combo cards now, the D-Gen Den. They've got Austin Matthews over 3.5 shots, Robertson for Dallas over 2.5 shots, and McKinnon over 3.5 shots. That is plus 475 as well. And then, of course, the Lock Shop Bowl, Oilers and Jets both make the Western Conference Finals, still there at plus 825.
Hey, let's do just a quick look before we get over to the curling and the Elimination Chamber. What's going on here at the Cognizant? Jake Knapp, after his 59, he's still in first. He's 1 under. Danny Berger, 2 back at 11 under. Russell Henley. Ben Griffin, my guy. Look at this. 6 under, 65. Third place at minus 9. But where is Sepp Straka? That is what we need to know. Maybe he's playing a little later on today.
I think he's a little bit later on. I think he was out earlier yesterday. He's 2 under.
Sepp, 2 under through 4, 6 under for the tourney.
That's good.
That huge group at 6.
You know, Billy Ho's at T16 and Shane Lowry's at T6. And Sepp Straka is just kind of getting going here. He's 6 under. He's just outside the top 20. A long way to go here, but a pretty nice start.
Let's just confirm. Who did we have? Oh, yeah, it was Lowry, Straka, and Billy Ho.
Yeah. So Billy Ho.
1475, guys. We're going to be able to I'm also on Patty's Make the Cut parlay.
Who did he end up throwing into that one?
Denny McCarthy, Minwoo Lee, Straka, and Luke Clanton. And I think the guy that we needed to really step up was Minwoo Lee, and he did. 6 under par, 65 today. So Minwoo Lee.
Denny McCarthy is just outside the projected cut line right now. But what's he through today here?
He's just through 7. He's
only
1.
through 7. Okay, so he's got room.
So we're going to need him to step up. Minwoo, as we said, is there. Straka is looking very good. And then Luke Clanton. I think Clanton had a nice start. I'm just going to go through the top list. Yeah, and he's at 6 under as well. So essentially, we're on Danny McCarthy watch this afternoon, barring a Patrick Rogers like back 9 by one of these guys. But yeah, partner parlay looking good so far. And I'll tell you what, if Straka does top 20, I will be perfect for the POD this week, Dusty.
Oh, there you go.
Came through last night with Marchenko. We had the plus 148 Barrett Hayton. Cashed on Monday as well. So we'll have to figure out a good one for tonight. Maybe we will go to the curling for this evening, because the Montana's Brier begins this evening, folks. I will admit I am probably partial to the women's, the Scotties. I think that's my favorite week, but this is close. And as we talked about it earlier in the week, we have a real, a really interesting board right now, where it's not Brad Gushue as an even money favorite and then everyone chasing him, kind of like what it's been the last couple of years in the women's curling. We've got a far more wide open field. There are really a group of 4 or 5 teams that I think you could realistically see winning. Maybe even, let's say 6, because Kevin Cooey can get hot. The Cooey number is 15-1. It sort of hasn't clicked so far for his team this year, but far be it from me to predict Kevin Cooey won't be able to get it done at a Brier where he's always seemingly in the mix. But the way things stand right now, there's been a little bit of line movement on a couple of teams in that top run. Brad Jacobs is the favorite. He essentially took over Brendan Bottcher's team. They have been phenomenal this year. Jacobs is a big-time player. They opened at plus 170. Early in the week, they were bet down to plus 155. There's a very good chance that they will be there, be in the final at the end. Now, Matt Dunstone, representing Manitoba, his was the one line that didn't move, and it's actually moved a little bit the other way. He was plus 210, plus 215. He's now plus 225. I think part of the reason for that, despite how good and consistent that the team has been this year, is just the fact that he has not won the Brier. And I mean, you're talking about some pretty decorated curlers on the other side of him in Jacobs with the season they've had and his history. And then, of course, Brad Gushue. And it was a bit of an eye-opener, I think, Dusty, to everyone that, follows curling like we do, kind of more around the big events and maybe isn't paying close attention to the slams every week. Like, they added Brendan Bottcher. You were thinking that this was going to be a super team Homan style, but it just hasn't really worked. Like, you lose EJ Harnden and all of a sudden Bottcher is your sweeper playing second. It obviously hasn't maybe worked as well as they had thought it was going to. But Brad Gushue at the Brier is going to get support, and that's exactly what's happened. They opened up at plus 450. It went to 4-1. And now Gushue and Canada is plus 350. Those are your top 3. And it's a pretty clear delineation of the top 3. But Mike McEwen's rank, representing Saskatchewan, is right there in the mix. Plus 550 to win. Plus 205 to get to the top 2. Plus 105 for top 3. And minus 161. Listen, it is a little chalky. But I do think that we're going to probably see a Jacobs-Dunstone final. Dunstone minus 119 to finish in the top 2, is a bet that I think that I would like. I had John Cullen on earlier this week. I've been doing some behind the scenes, leaning into some people that have been on it. And it's weird. Like, the Bottcher's team was so successful and they'd come up just short. They'd been there for a number of years. And it kind of seems like the rest of the team felt this was on Bottcher. Like, I can't remember a situation where a team like that essentially fired the skip that had been doing so well for them. But there's a reason why these odds are what they are right now. Jacobs is the favorite. They have the team, they have the experience, and he, after taking a little bit of time off, playing with Reed Carruthers last year, bouncing around the year before, is ready to go. Now, if you look at, if you go down, like just outside of the main winner, top 2, top 3, top 4, there's a few other options that are good. I mean, listen, all those teams that we just mentioned to qualify from pool play have big numbers beside them. I mean, minus 1429 for Jacobs, 714 for Dunstone, McEwen at minus 476. Canada is minus 400. The group, I believe the group that Canada is in, Group A. Group A is really interesting when it comes to like the round robin or the pre-tournament beforehand, because Jacobs and McEwen are in Group B, and it kind of seems like there's those teams and then everybody else But Dunstone at plus 110 to win Group A, I think is some nice value. They do have the Gushu rink in theirs. I mean, in Northern Ontario, that's plus 290, and Kevin Cooey. But if you look over at Jacobs, like Jacobs is minus 154 to win Group B. And again, your losses carry on with you in this tournament. So it is important. Like you can't just, it doesn't matter what my record is going forward. Every game really does matter. So I think both of those guys to win their groups, it's probably a pretty good one. We could I wonder if they would be able to put that together. It's a little chalky, but if you would normally do a parlay on this, plus 246 for Dunstone and Jacobs to both win their groups, like Dunstone to win Group A, Jacobs to win Group B. Jake, see if you guys want to throw that up, maybe with a little combo for the round robin. But I think I'd probably play both of those separately. And fading Team Canada and Brad Gushu. Canada's exact finishing position. Silver's plus 390, bronze plus 425, fourth is plus 325, fifth or sixth plus 350, and do not qualify plus 315. Like, could we potentially see a Gushu rink not end up playing on the weekend? Wouldn't that be crazy?
That would be crazy. That sounds nuts to me.
It's a little bit of a tough number. And I mean, again, 5 or 6 plus 350, the plus 525 on fourth, that would mean you're basically looking at for sure Dunstone, for sure Jacobs, and somebody, and then like maybe Mike McEwen in that mix. Third place, though, for the bronze for Canada. Maybe we'll jump on that. Brad Gushu to finish bronze, which would essentially be like Jacobs or Dunstone waiting in the final. Dunstone or Jacobs, whoever was in that semi, beating Gushu and setting up our Manitoba and Alberta final. I'm going to do that. There you have an official pick on the lock shop.
Plus 425.
Gushu third. Like, yeah, we're not gonna fade him so much not to be there. They're too good, but I do think that will be the case. Now, do we have the exact final odds here? I was going through that earlier. Again, province of winning team plus 140, Manitoba plus 190. You do get the two teams. Like Alberta includes Cooey, Reed Carruthers Manitoba includes Dunstone and Reed Carruthers. I was hoping to see the exact final.
I don't see that right now. Yeah, I don't see it.
No. But we ended up getting it in the last rink. And in the women, it wasn't as much about Homan. It was about whether Carrie Anderson's team would be able to do it. And they did. They got to the final. Like Evdog and the guys, the one thing I'll say about the curling, like at least for the tournament overall, the odds makers are so good. I mean, you can see a little bit of movement, but for the most part, things are where I think we thought that they would be. And when you see the early movement on a guy like Jacobs, the Canada one, I just chalk up to the fact that it's the Brier, it's Brad Gushu. I mean, I think that's kind of the public money, if you will, coming in blindly. What? Brad Jacobs is plus 450, auto bet. But I do think that Dunstone and Jacobs, the two top teams right now through the slams, are going to be that in the final spot. And we'll go from there. It's tough to really go also beyond Cooey. I mean, you got Alberta, Saskatchewan, the Carruthers rink, Ontario. I mean, they're all 50-1 to win, but I mean, they're even, over 3 and 4 to 1 to finish top 4. But I think kind of once we get down to the weekend, the cream rises to the crop. And I think you're basically looking at probably those top 4 teams be in the top 4, unless a team like Northern Ontario or maybe Kevin Cooey can sort of barge in on the party. Again, if there's a particular team that you like or that you want to jump on, you can get exact finishing positions for all of them. But I kind of think the odds makers have this right on the 1, 2, 3. Alberta, Dunstone. And listen, I'll back Dunstone, especially if he gets to the final. He'll be an underdog against Jacobs. Guys, depending on what happens in the tournament, I mean, they could run through and look like the number 1 team. But it's kind of weird to think about a Brier final without Brad Gushue, but I think that's what we're going to have this year with Dunstone and Jacobs. Now tonight, like, this gets going. Is this out in where is this? This is in
Kelowna,
somewhere in Alberta.
I think it's in Kelowna.
All right, that's great. Some late night curling. I love when it's out on the West Coast. So we got some good late draws. Even the early draws start a little bit later. Nice matchup to start it off. Cooey and Dunstone.
Oh boy, that's a good one.
Yeah, Dunstone's minus 357 in this one. Cooey plus 245. And the rock line in this one is plus 2.5. This is I'll be honest, I think I might take Cooey plus 2.5 in this game. Like even as a strong favorite the way they are, like, beating teams by 3 in men's curling that just doesn't happen all the time, especially when you're thinking about the amount of times guys are, being forced to take 1 or maybe you get 2. So I like Dunstone to win this game. But I'm going to take Cooey, I think, plus 2.5 in this one. Brad, the big Newfie matchup between Canada and Newfoundland and Labrador. Gushue's minus 1250. The rock line is 4.5. Be honest, don't know a lot about the other Newfie team. Carruthers playing BC. Reed minus 196 on the money line, minus 1.5 at minus 114. Big Reed guy. Maybe we'll drop him at minus 1.5 and see.
I want to slide in here because we have 5 minutes left and people want your Elimination Chamber thoughts.
Okay.
We better do that. I bet people are going to be pissed if we don't get the elimination.
Two gamer for the opening matchup. Alberta plus 2.5, Manitoba minus 1.5. If you want to just play that together, that's plus 251. All right, Elimination Chamber. Now, I've got some bad news. Now, I haven't seen any of this. I don't want to see it.
I looked it up. I'm not going to say anything, Huss. I don't want to ruin it for you. I saw what the leak was. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah. So I don't know. So the men's Elimination Chamber is off the board. Now, keep in mind, I don't know what this leak is. I'm going to hopefully not see it. But this is professional wrestling here, folks. So just because something comes up on the Friday before an event does not mean, I mean, listen, it might force them to pivot a different way. Yep. So I don't know whether we're going to see this get back up. But if it does, just keep in mind, I think anything's possible, although this does have a big way of sort of shaping up WrestleMania. Now, with The Rock coming back last week and sort of being in the mix, he could potentially take care of Roman Reigns. I think a lot of people have thought that John Cena is going to come back, win this thing, and, have one of his big farewell matches at WrestleMania. So, but regardless, keep your eyes on it. It might come back a little later on. The women's Elimination Chamber match, however, though, is up on it. And Bianca Belair is a pretty significant favorite of minus 455. You got Roxanne Perez at 10-1. Alexa Bliss, who's been gone for a long time after having a baby, but she's back, plus 475. Bailey at 28-1. Liv Morgan at plus 850. And Naomi at plus 650. I'm telling you right now, you can probably eliminate Liv. She's a big enough star and just had the belt for about a year.
So they don't need to run that back.
No, exactly. I mean, love her. Never turning the channel when she's on, but doesn't really need the belt right now. I think Bailey and Naomi are sort of in similar situations. I'm not sure that either of those two would really get people really excited or fired up for WrestleMania. Bianca Belair is the superstar of this group, and she's been doing some tag stuff, but I think it really does feel like it's time for her to get back into the main event picture. So I do think that she would be the winner. I mean, the other one would be Roxanne Perez at 10-1. If you wanted to take a long shot, or maybe they're changing things around. Like Bianca, Alexa, Bailey, Liv, Naomi, they've all been in the mix for a while. Roxanne is the one newer player in that title picture, if you will. So if you're looking for a long shot, you can drop her at 10-1. I don't think it's happening, though. I think it's Bianca Belair. That's why it's minus 455. They do, though, have the first participant eliminated. Bailey, it looks like she's plus 125. And Roxanne is plus 175. So it could go the other way. She's not winning. It's going to be Bianca. I think Liv hangs around. Probably Naomi as well. So again, if you're looking for first participant eliminated, you might be looking at one of those two short numbers. And then the competitor to make the most eliminations, who they sort of want to make look the best, it's probably Bianca. I mean, if they're going to really give her like a strong win in this to go to WrestleMania, they're going to probably have her take care of most of the business. So plus 125 on that. But again, plus money on a few of these things that are interesting. Now you got Trish Stratus is back, by the way.
I saw that. I wasn't sure if that was like a different Trish Stratus. I was like, what's going on here?
And has not lost anything on her fastball. Let me just say that. She is still a Canadian treasure. Her and Tiffany Stratton, Tiffy time, going up against Nia Jackson, Candice LeRae. This will be a fun match, but I mean, you can't really bet it. Minus 33. But speaking of Canadians, your guy, Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, he's going. He's going to be there.
Fired up for this. He is going to be there.
He's going. He said he was going.
Amazing. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. This is great. I mean, we got minus 145, plus 105. I do sort of lean Owens in that he's sort of the bad guy, and I think they're really going to, like, he's had some good runs over this last little bit. I don't know if a Sami loss to KO really changes much. But man, these guys have had some classics in the past. This will be a great one to watch. But I kind of agree with the odds right now with Kevin Owens being a minus 145 favorite, but I am a big Sami guy. And, you know what, if he could pull it off at plus money, there'd be a lot of people happy about it. I think I lean KO, but I'm going to kind of follow what happens in this line, and maybe check out SmackDown 2 tonight for a little bit more on this one. But this will be a great one to watch. And, two best friends going at it again in the high stakes.
What's coming up on WST, Huss?
Not as much wrestling and curling talk as we just had here in the lock shop. We're going to be talking Jets, of course, kind of breaking down yesterday's game. We get Torts and the Flyers here tomorrow.
Oh, interesting.
And lots of talk about a potential Rasmus Ristolainen ad for the Jets. Talk a little bit about him. John Shannon's going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on the upcoming deadline. Ken Wiebe as well. Hit the combine with Hacksaw. Do some marbles. Get ready for the weekend.
Nice little Friday show. All right, that is going to do it for the lock shop today. We've got the oil stream coming up as we'll continue to dissect the 5-game losing streak. And Huss with Winnipeg Sports Talk coming up right away as well. I enjoy everything that we just teed up for the weekend. Thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck this weekend, and we'll talk to you again on Monday on The Lock Shop.